Let's take a look at sites in Simpro. So sites, as we've already explained, are physical locations where we can go and carry out work. And to access sites, you've got two main methods. In the top left-hand corner, hover over the People menu, click on Sites, or alternatively, if we type in our address into the top right-hand corner, not our address, but the site address that we're looking for, I'm going to type in 43 Hodge Lane. That's where I am now. And we can see here we've got actually 3 results for sites. And that's because we've got 3 separate locations or sites that actually have the same address. And we can see here we've got 43 Hodge Lane, the main house, then we've got the garden office, and then we've got Triangle House in the garden. So obviously I can pick from those separate ones, and I can open the record directly from there. But if we go and have a look at the table view, I've got 35 sites in this test system. And obviously you might have a lot more than that in here, but this gives us all of our sites and we can click into them. So we're going to pick on the top one. We can see here that the Details tab holds the address details, and we've also got the ability to have a site name. Now this site name is really useful, because if I want to call this 43 Hodge Lane House, just to differentiate it from the other sites that I have in the system called 43 Hodge Lane, that will make that really stand out as the main house for this particular site address. It is also really important that if you have an address in the system, you do just have one site for it, with perhaps multiple sites for multiple names, if you have physical locations on that site. But really it's down to individual preference as to how you set up your site. So you may have a customer who's very specific on, whenever you come and do work my property, I want you to consider my workshop in my garden as a totally separate property from my own property, and I want every single quote separated. Or you might have customers who go, you're just coming to quote for my site overall, and I don't really care about you holding individual records. Or they might have no preference at all, and therefore it's up to you as a company to decide how you like to structure it. On this front page, we can see that we've got a primary contact, Mr. Dan Bevan, and we've got their phone number and their email. Now, a site has a primary contact against it, which is the main person that you should contact for that particular location. However, against sites, you can also have other contacts. So against this site, we've got a primary contact at the top there, and then underneath that, we've got Zoe Bevan, who is an additional contact. So let's say that we can't get in touch with Dan. We know that we've got a backup record there to contact for Zoe. The other tabs that I wanted to show you in sites is customer assets. So customer assets is really useful, and we're going to be covering this in a separate section. And throughout the course, we're going to be returning back to what customer assets are. But they are the customer's equipment at their site. So I can see that this particular site has an air conditioning unit, CCTV system, and a fridge. So it may be that we've got maintenance for them. And if we have them on the phone, we can really show our customers that we know what they have recorded on their site with us as a supplier, because we can have a problem with a particular type of equipment. Is it your air conditioning unit? Is it CCTV system? And so on and so forth. And we'll come into later in the course how you can see the actual test history and visit history for each one of those assets. The other one that's really useful is the customer tab inside a site. So let's say that you have someone call about a site. You're going to want to check if that site is associated to the correct customer that you have on the phone or inquiring about that particular location, because it could be in your Simpro that you've got 2 different sites for the same address for 2 different customers, even though really you should have one site for 2 customers. But we're going to come on to customer and site relationship in a separate video. So you also have the history tab, and very similar to customer records, the history tab grabs together all of the information, all of the jobs quotes for that particular site. So whereas a customer will grab it for every site that belongs to that customer, the site's another level down in more detail because you just have them for that one location. The other thing I'd like to point out is the notes. So public and private notes, and we're going to come on later in the course about when public and private notes appear and who they appear to. But these are really useful for you to be able to say things like, if this site requires 2 people, I've got in private notes that there's a dog on site, which might be really useful for your engineers when they're attending site. So that's sites really briefly. They're physical locations where we can carry out work and dispatch engineers to for maintenance or call-outs or remedials. And they really exist separately from customer records, but they're associated to them. Okay, let's move on to the next part of the course.